Most people assume that luxury watches are just expensive, and they are. But what most collectors don't realize, especially early on, is that how you buy the watch matters just as much as which watch you actually buy. Because the difference between buying that model watch at retail versus buying it pre-owned on the secondary market can be thousands of dollars. Today, we're going to talk about how to look for watches the smart way, what to look for, what to avoid, and then we're also going to apply these ideas to brands like Rolex, Grand Seiko, Omega, and Jaeger-LeCoultre. Now, my name is James. I'm a watch enthusiast, a watch collector, and an advisor. And my goal for you is that you come to know and love your watches. So if you enjoy this type of content, please like the video and subscribe to my channel because you'll see new content from me every week. And check out the description below where you'll find all sorts of other exciting content that I've put together for you. Now, before we talk about how to save money, we have to address why the secondary market exists in the first place. Watches are fundamentally different from most luxury goods. They are mechanical objects designed to last decades, if not generations, and that durability creates a very active secondary market where watches are constantly being bought, sold, and traded. But here is the key idea. Not all watches will depreciate evenly. Unlike a car that loses its value the second you drive it off the lot, watches behave differently depending on the brand, the model, production volume, and market demand. So when you're buying a pre-owned watch, you're not just buying used, you're buying a watch that's already taken the hit from that price depreciation that happens. And that is where the opportunity is. Now let's talk numbers, because this is where this starts to get real very, very quickly. When you buy a watch at retail, you're paying not only the brand premium, but you're also paying for that retail experience, and you're paying for the fact that that watch is brand new. But the moment that watch enters the secondary market, a big part of that brand premium actually just disappears. To give some examples of the brands we're going to talk about today, Omega and Jaeger-LeCoultre both typically trade anywhere from 20 to 40% below retail. Grand Seiko, you can find even better buys, anywhere between 30 to 50% off retail. Rolex is a little more complex, but you can still find deals that trade below retail depending on the model that you're looking for. You get the same watch, the same movement, and the same build quality that could cost you thousands less just because someone else took that initial hit in depreciation. And that's the core strategy behind buying used watches. Let somebody else pay the premium while you get the value of buying used. So what should you look for? This is where the conversation separates you from the average watch buyer, because not all pre-owned watches are created equal. First, the condition. It's not just about the scratches on the watch. It's a big mistake that people make is focusing only on the external wear on the watch. What matters a lot more is the case integrity that you're getting of the specific watch you're looking at. So for instance, things to look at would be the sharpness of the lugs, the crispness of the case, and the symmetry that you're getting on both sides of the watch. Over polishing is probably one of the biggest issues that you're going to find with pre-owned watches in the market. Once metal is removed from a watch, there's no bringing it back. And on certain watches, especially from Rolex, this can really impact the long-term value of the watch. Now let's look at full set versus watch only, because you'll hear the term full set very often. And what this actually means is that you're getting a watch with the original box, the original papers, and any accessories that would have come from the factory. Does it matter? It does, but only for resale value and the liquidity that you'll have with that watch. A full set is definitely going to be easier to sell later and will always command a higher price. But if you know you're buying a watch just to wear and enjoy it, sometimes you can find a better value with only the watch. Now, service history, we've got to talk about this because this is one of the things that can be really important from a warranty perspective and can impact the long-term value of the watch itself. Mechanical watches require service. You're generally going to know that if you're getting into luxury watches. And if a watch hasn't been serviced recently, you're going to need to factor that into the price of the watch itself. Basic watch service tends to cost anywhere from $500 to $800, and if it's a complex watch with multiple complications, you're probably looking at somewhere north of $1,000 for a service. So sometimes a slightly more expensive watch that has a recent service history can actually be a better deal for you. Now let's talk about why the seller matters more than the price. This is really important. A reputable dealer or a trusted seller is worth paying a premium, because what you're buying is not just a pre-owned watch, but you're buying confidence in what you're getting. You'll know that the watch is authentic, you'll know the parts are original, and the condition that they're showing you is accurately representing what you're actually going to get in the box. Now let's apply all of this to the specific brands we're going to talk about, because this is where the strategy here really starts to matter. When people think about pre-owned watches, Rolex is one of the names that comes to mind right away. But the reality of Rolex is a little more nuanced. Not every single Rolex is going to trade way above retail. In fact, some of the best value here is going to be found in Datejust models, Oyster Perpetuals, and older 5-digit models that are still in great condition. Where you need to be careful when you're looking at these is for replacement parts, over polishing, and bracelet stretch that can happen over time. With Rolex, the goal is not always going to be to find a deal on the watch. It's really to avoid paying for a premium for something in the condition that's not actually there. Now let's get into Grand Seiko, because this is where things really get interesting. In my opinion, Grand Seiko is one of the best opportunities out there on a secondary market perspective. And it comes down to perception. Grand Seiko has some of the best finishing in the industry. Spring drive technology is one of the most revolutionary things when it comes to movement quality. And they also have some of the best dials that you can find for the price point. But because the broader market hasn't fully caught up yet to what the brand actually gives you, there's a lot of depreciation that you can find value in. And that means that you can generally find Grand Seiko models between 30 and 50% retail. That's one heck of a steal that from a value perspective is really hard to beat. Now Omega sits right in the sweet spot in this category. They have a higher production volume, they have frequent upgrades with a lot of options, and they have a really strong brand recognition with these watches. This creates really great opportunities when it comes to the secondary market. Some examples you may want to look at would be the Seamaster Diver 300 meter, the Aquaterra model lines, and of course, the Speedmaster Professional, also known as the Moon Watch. You're typically saving anywhere from 20 to 35%, and you're still getting a very modern and technically advanced watch. Omega is another place where you get a lot of value for your money without having to pay the full retail price. And then there's Jaeger-LeCoultre. This is where the conversation shifts more into true high horology and watchmaking. JLC produces some of the best in-house movements. They have great finishing for the price point, and you can get into some really nice complications within their catalog. But because many of their watches fall a little bit more into the dress watch category, they're not going to get that broader recognition of value, and the depreciation on them can be significant. So finding these watches at 30 to 50% below retail is not uncommon. And that matters because that means that JLC is a great way to get into high horology at a very reasonable price point. Now, we got to talk about the risks. To be very clear, buying pre-owned is not risk-free. There are real pitfalls within the secondary market. The first one, especially when it comes to Rolex, would be counterfeit models. These look and feel very similar to the real thing, and they're often hard to tell one another apart. Secondly would be Franken watches with mixed parts. So this is where someone services a watch, they don't use genuine parts, and that causes not only a loss of warranty, but it can also lead to mechanical issues down the road. Third would be poor servicing on the watch. So again, you take a watch in for service, they fail to lubricate the right pieces, and it just leads to mechanical issues down the road. And lastly, which can be devastating, is when there's undisclosed damage to the watch itself. You think you're buying one thing, you actually get something completely different. So, how do you protect yourself when you're buying pre-owned? First, you want to make sure that you're buying from a trusted and reputable dealer. Make sure that if you're buying on a platform like Chrono24, for instance, you're getting a lot of positive reviews for this dealer, real comments from real buyers. Those are all ways that you can make sure that they are a trusted, verified source. Ask for more detailed photos if you need. Oftentimes, listings will have stock images of a watch versus pictures of the actual watch that you're going to get. So make sure that you do your due diligence on seeing what the actual watch will look like that you're going to get if you pull the trigger on that watch. If You may also want to request reports like time grapher results, because this will give you the idea that the watch you're getting is actually running within the tolerances that it should based on the movement that it has inside. And then verify the serial number when possible. This isn't usually something that you'll see on the initial post, but if you start a conversation with the seller and they have the watch available, you should be able to ask them to either verify the serial number or maybe even provide pictures of the watch indicating what the serial number is. And go with your gut on these conversations. If something feels off about the conversation, it probably is. Now, this is important for balance here. There are still times when it can make sense to buy brand new. Let's talk about a couple of those. The first one would be when you're looking for a specific new release. We just had Watches and Wonders 26 recently, and there are a lot of new watches out there. You're not gonna see those watches on the secondary market for quite a while. So if you're looking for a brand new piece from a brand, oftentimes the only way to get that is gonna be to go directly to an authorized dealer. The second reason would be that you're planning to keep the watch long term. Often you've done your due diligence on this, you did your research, you've tried it on, you know that this is gonna be a watch that's gonna stay in your collection for a long time. That can be worth going and getting it because you know it's exactly what you want. A third reason could be that you're building a relationship with an authorized dealer. So let's say there's a watch that's maybe a little bit harder to get and you have other watches that you're interested in. It can make sense to go to the dealer and get those watches first because you're gonna build that purchase history and that relationship that will give you access to maybe some of those more limited edition releases or more desirable watches down the road. And last would be when there are other benefits other than just getting the watch. The example I use all the time is with Grand Seiko, and by buying from an authorized dealer, you get access to their GS9 club. For me, this was a really big benefit because you get access not only to insider information, new releases or early releases, but you also see what's coming from the brand and sometimes get exclusive invites to events in your area. And that alone can be worth buying new from an authorized dealer. So again, this is not about never buying brand new. It's just about knowing when the value is there and when it's worth it and when it's not. So at the end of the day, buying watches is not just about having quality watches. It's about building a collection that you're excited about and feel good about, both from the emotional perspective and the financial perspective. And once you start to understand how the pre-owned market works, you'll realize that you don't have to overpay to get there. So I'd love to know, where do you prefer to buy your watches? Do you buy them pre-owned or do you like buying brand new from an authorized dealer? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. Thanks again for stopping by the video. I appreciate you being here and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.